Good night. Wanted. Rickford Burke is wanted in Guyana. Good night, everybody. This is Rickford Burke. Welcome to another edition of Conversation with Rickford Burke. Share this link. Share this link to everybody. Get into your Guyanese groups on Facebook, WhatsApp, wherever you have a social media platform, in your email groups. Wherever you are, share this link. We have a very intriguing conversation to have tonight, where the police has issued a wanted bulletin for me in response to me suing Jack there today for $100 million. So share the link. Again, reach out to everybody you know. Get into all your Guyanese groups. Get into your Facebook Messenger groups, as I said. Call up your neighbors and friends. Text me. Let me know wherever you're watching from. I hope you're having a good night, everybody. Whether you're watching me from London, Europe, Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, here in the United States, in North America, Canada, West Coast, East Coast, everywhere. Wherever you're watching from, I hope you're having a good time. Share the link, and I'll be right back in 6 seconds for us to dissect this wanted bulletin. All right, so share the link. Keep sharing this link. I want to talk to you about this trumped up so-called bulletin that the Ghana Police Force has issued. Keep sharing the link. Like I said, get it to all your Guyanese group. So listen, yesterday I strongly condemned the PPP racism in Guyana. I do it again today. I strongly condemn PPP racism in Guyana. I believe there should be a serious resistance and revolution against PPP racism. It is not unlawful to have a revolution against racism. We had a revolution against racism in the United States. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that whether or not the PPP believes that they have a God-given right to be racist, to mistreat Black people in Guyana, and try to enslave Black people in Guyana. And we must not talk about it. They're the only ones that can talk about it. They talk about whatever they want. So I want everybody to share this link because I have a serious message for the diaspora tonight and for the people in Guyana tonight. So share the link, and I'll be back in just a few seconds to discuss this issue. I want to make sure that everybody understands what is going on. And I want to tell everybody that I'm not intimidated. I'm undaunted. I'm fired up. We must bring an end to racism in Guyana. We must bring an end to racism in the United States. We must bring an end to racism in the world. And the PPP cannot stop me from condemning, exposing, and working to halt racism in Guyana. Share the link. I'll be right back. I'll be doing the same thing as well. Right. So, wow, I'm seeing so many of you here. Share the link. Everybody keep sharing this link. I see thousands of you here already. And I would like everybody to share this link to at least 20 other people. Get into your Facebook groups, get into your messenger groups, get on YouTube, get on Instagram, wherever you are, Clubhouse, wherever, share the link. Twitter, everywhere, share the link. We will expose PPP corruption, abuse, and racism here tonight. All right, so let me say this. The People's Progressive Party believes it owns Guyana. They actually think that they own Guyana. Anybody that opposes them, they either end up dead or charged with trumped up criminal charges, because they have their own people in the Guyana police force that they manipulate. And they use African Guyanese in the Guyana police force to go against each other and to go against African Guyanese citizens that speak out against them. The People's Progressive Party, this Bart Jagdeo or Finale government, is the most brutally racist and violently oppressive regime in the Western Hemisphere. And I am not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of them. Nobody in Guyana should be afraid of them. I've seen people expressing concern and fear for their life because in the previous PPP regime, death squads murdered people, African Guyanese people. There was a genocide. The United States government condemned it. But they don't want to talk about it. And anybody who talks about it, they attempt to silence. I will not be silenced. I live in the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution gives me the right to free speech. The Guyana government and the PPP does not have jurisdiction over anybody in the diaspora, over no American citizen, over no Guyanese that live abroad. And they will not infringe on my or anyone else's constitutional right anywhere in the diaspora to speak out, to condemn racism. They control the press. They have an ethnic press in Guyana that they control, that suppresses their racism, suppresses their bad governance and their corruption. And that's why they're always attacking Rickford Burke and Cheryl Duncan and Mark Benchcop and others. Kadiki Amsterdam, Dr. David Hines. They have a war on Black people. And they have been using the resources of the state solely, primarily, only for their East Indian supporters. And any regime that does that is called an ethnocracy. And that's what the PPP is. And Guyanese should not allow it to happen. Now, I wish to announce tonight that earlier today, my attorneys in Guyana served Barrett Jagdeo with notice that I have instructed them to sue him for 100 million Guyana dollars for libel, for defamation. He slandered me on a program with Critic. So in response to that lawsuit, the Guyana Police Force issues this bulletin. The bulletin is in response and a consequence to my suing Barrett Jagdeo for defamation for 100 million Guyana dollars. The bulletin alleges that Rickford Burke committed sedition and incitement of racial hostility in Guyana. I'm in the United States. I'm in the jurisdiction of the United States, where my free speech is constitutionally protected. And the reason they're jumping at this opportunity is because yesterday, when they arrested former Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, my friend, someone who I have known for over 30 years, I condemned it. And I said it was racist. And I condemned their racism. And I said for far too long, they have been committing atrocities against Afro-Guyanese, death squad killings, extrajudicial killings, political assassinations with no consequence or no justice. And the people of Guyana must ensure justice for the people who were killed by the death squads, by police officers or agents of the PPP. There must be justice for Isaiah Henry. There must be justice for Kevin Andrews, justice for Orrin Boston, justice for the over 1,400 African Guyanese people, men, young men, that were murdered during the last PPP government. There must be justice. And I will use this opportunity now to alert the entire world about the atrocities that is happening in Guyana. It doesn't matter to me how much PR and lobbyists the PPP hires. I'm announcing tonight that the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy will now go to Washington, D.C. and meet with every aspect, every branch of the United States government. All branches of Congress, all branches of the New York State Legislature, the New York City Council. And we will now alert the world about the budding racist dictatorship in Guyana. Now, like I said, these allegations are false. They're ridiculous. They're laughable. Like I said before, I live in the United States. The Guyana government doesn't have jurisdiction, and I will not allow them jurisdiction over, and I will not allow them to control my free speech rights, which are guaranteed by the United States Constitution. The wanted bulletin demonstrates, it is evidence, formidable evidence of the regime's blatant and corrupt abuse of the police powers of the country to obtain revenge against Afro-Guyanese who speak out and condemn their racism. Tomorrow I'll be meeting with some members of Congress to discuss this issue. And I will call on them to impose sanctions on the senior leadership of the Guyana Police Force and members of the United States administration, including Mayor Jagdeo, including the Attorney General. And we will get intelligence on the others. Now, tonight, I was also informed that the PPP has put out a contract on me that I must be either killed or captured. I've already informed the FBI and the New York City Police Department and the Attorney General of New York. Recently, one of the PPP supporters came on social media to say that the government must start renditioning people back to Guyana, which means kidnap them and bring them to Guyana to kill them. One would recall that Anil Nanlal, during the recount when we were exposing PPP fraud at the election, called for me to be extradited. Several other PPP members came on social media and called for me to be captured and brought to Guyana to be commie-winged and waggled. And so for those of you who know the history of Guyana, Commie-wing was allegedly murdered during the election campaign in 2011, and Anil Nanlal was investigated, allegedly, and his security for that gruesome murder. We would also recall that Ronald Waddle was shot several times by high-powered rifle in Kitty, in the area of the seawall, by PPP death squad members. Later, the United States Justice Department presented evidence in court to show that members of the government were aware that Waddle was murdered. And based on the evidence and testimony provided in the trial of Roger Cannon here in the Eastern District of New York in Brooklyn, the then Minister of Health was informed by the killers that Waddle had been murdered and he was being taken to the Georgetown Hospital, and that the Minister of Health must instruct the doctors to let him die. This is the regime that we're dealing with. This is the regime that diplomats in Guyana installed on the people of Guyana. You will also recall that we had previously announced that the federal government had informed us that the PPP government sent a lieutenant from the Guyana Defense Force Intelligence Unit to track me in the United States. We have also now been informed by our intelligence sources that the PPP has sent GDF intelligence officers to track me in New York. We have also been told that an operation out of office of the president in Guyana, headed by a certain colonel, has been monitoring me and identified me as a person of interest. So too is the Special Branch Department of the Guyana Police Force. Now, we have obtained the names of the members of the Guyana Defense Force Intelligence Unit. And tomorrow, we will hand those names over to the FBI and our members of Congress and an official from the State Department. We must fight back against PPP racism. We must fight back against the attempt by the PPP to transform Guyana into a Russian society that is a police state that harasses people, torments people, tortures people, persecutes people who challenge the regime. Now, the Wanted Bulletin is propaganda food for their racist supporters. No doubt they're all over social media celebrating. Let me also say that there's a PPP supporter who has left a comment on Irfan Ali's page calling for me to be killed and my head to be cut off and sent to Guyana in a platter. I wrote the police about that. That is definitely a serious crime in Guyana, and nothing has happened. That murderous comment remains on Irfan Ali's page right now. Tomorrow, we will hand that over to the members of Congress and the State Department. Like I said in our post yesterday, the United States government has expressed serious concern about racism in Guyana. They've also expressed concern about contracts, 99% of contracts, government contracts, going only to East Indian PPP supporters. CGID and myself, we have been condemning this practice. CGID and Gore, you will recall, held an anti-racism rally in New York where senior members of the United States Congress, the chairman of the Democrats in Congress, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, the majority leader of the New York City Council, Assemblywoman Diane Richardson, Laurie Combo actually is the majority leader of the New York City Council, and several other officials in the United States joined, Haitian members of the United States, of the New York City Council, joined the rally to condemn PPP racism. I want to assure the Guyanese people, I want to assure African Guyanese people, I want to assure Amerindians and East Indians and members of mixed race who do not support PPP racism and the evil atrocities of this regime, that you're not alone. We in the diaspora support you. United States members of Congress and other officials support you. Tonight, I want to ask members of the diaspora not to be intimidated. Continue to speak out against PPP racism. Call for the people of Guyana to resist PPP racism. Call for a revolution against PPP racism. Now, apparently the PPP believes that they have an inalienable right, a constitutional right to be racist. to mete out injustice to African Guyanese, and to impose East Indian ethnic dominance, supremacy on Guyana. No, we reject that. We in the diaspora live through racism. And last year, the people of this country, the young people of all races, rose up and fought racism under the theme, Black Lives Matter. I want to call on Guyanese to go out and resist and call for the PPP to end racism under the theme, Black Lives Matter. Let us bring it alive again in Guyana. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Don't be intimidated. The PPP has been going after business owners and contractors and public servants who associate with members of the opposition, as if they have a right alone to have friends and associates. Associate with who you want. Express yourself. You have a constitutional right to freedom of association, assembly, and expression. And every time they commit atrocities like they did to Winston Jordan yesterday, take them to court. Flood the courts with lawsuits. Flood the courts with lawsuits. Challenge every action that you believe is unlawful, that you believe is unconstitutional. If the PPP thinks that they have a God-given right to be racist, and that anybody who opposes or condemns their racism, they will go after them using the powers of the government, the powers of the state, the powers of police, and the powers of police arrests, then African Guyanese and Amerindians and East Indians and mixed-race Guyanese who oppose them have just the same rights to fight against it, to oppose it, to resist it, to fight to eliminate it. You have that right. Use it. Don't be silent anymore. They can do all they want. The international community is watching, and they believe they have the support of the international community. Well, we will now engage the international community with speed and velocity and intensity. And you will see condemnations from tomorrow against what is happening in Guyana. My friends, my fellow Guyanese, do not allow a Russian-style dictatorship that is anti-Black, that sees Black people as less than human beings, to rise up in Guyana. And we must continue the resistance against PPP racism until the PPP agrees that Guyana is a multi-ethnic, multiracial society, and they must govern the country equitably for every Guyanese and democratically. And until we are at that point, the resistance and opposition to PPP racism must continue. It is not against the law. It is not against the law to condemn or fight against racism in Guyana. It is not sedition to fight and condemn racism in Guyana. It is not inciting anybody to condemn and fight against racism. It is the People's Progressive Party government, this regime, that is inciting racial hostility in Guyana. It was Barrett Jagdeo. It was Barrett Jagdeo who went throughout Guyana calling, inciting people to commit violent acts against David Granger when he was president, against then Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, and then against then ministers of the government. And last but not least, it was Nandadal who, according to a law enforcement officer, said he overheard him calling for me to be eliminated, calling for me to be killed, calling for me to be stopped. Stop from exposing PPP corruption. Stop from exposing racism. And now I want to turn to members of the Guyana Defense Force and members of the Guyana Police Force. Do not allow racists in the People's Progressive Party to force you to commit unlawful acts, unconscionable acts, to go against your conscience, and to commit immoral acts, unethical acts. Do not allow racists in the People's Progressive Party to push you to commit crimes against your own family members, commit crimes against your own communities, and to commit crimes against humanity. Because one day, you will be held accountable. And to the members of the Guyana Police Force, we will pursue vigorously sanctions against you for the atrocities that you have committed, for the abuse of police powers, like in this case, the abuse of Paul Slow, the abuse of Winston Jordan, the abuse of GCOM officials, the abuse of PNC members of parliament, the abuse of Waldo Lawrence, the abuse of women, all African Guyanese. It must not stand. And also, Mark Phillips, Juana Jill, Utah, Onishwajan Alikok, Joseph Hamilton, you're Afro-Guyanese. You're members of the PPP regime. You sit in the cabinet with these people. Are you going to continue to allow them to be racist? Are you going to continue to allow them to marginalize and oppress African Guyanese, your own kith and kin? Guyana belongs to everybody. You represent the African Guyanese population constituency of the country. In your quiet nights, as you lay in your bed to sleep, your conscience must tell you that you're part of a regime that is oppressive, a part of a regime that is an apartheid government. Are you proud of that? Are you proud of that? One of my lights just blew. Are you proud of that? This is my message to all of us tonight. We cannot allow PPP to divide our country. If they want, they could take piece of Guyana and go and live in peace among themselves, where they don't have to see Black people, where they don't have to coexist with Black people. My message to you tonight is never be intimidated by racists. The KKK terrorized the United States. Special laws were enacted to deal with them. The PPP is akin to the KKK, and we must have special laws and special measures and special international interventions to deal with the PPP. And that starts tomorrow. That starts tomorrow. An international campaign against PPP racism in Guyana starts tomorrow. That's my message for you tonight. Stay safe, everybody. Do not be intimidated. Have a good night. Thank you for watching.